Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Breaking Boundaries, the world's premier podcast for international students, or at least that's what my mom says. I am joined today by two esteemed guests, Amanda Ostreko, the Assistant Vice Provost and Director of Graduate Program Enrollment at Kansas University in beautiful Lawrence, Kansas. Amanda, thank you for hopping on the pod today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, John.
Of course. And we're also joined by Astha Thapa, a senior at the University of Kansas, all the way from the beautiful country of Nepal. Astha, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much. It's an honor for me to be here.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as the honor. We'll see. So, Astha, I want to start with you. You had a long journey from Nepal to America's heartland. I'm curious to hear what was your initial take on Lawrence, Kansas, which is located smack dab in the middle of the United States.
Well, my journey is full of beautiful ups and downs, and there were so many choices that I was given, and I took, I made a lot of choices. I was also in the East, in the West Coast. I've been to different schools, so I'm a transfer student. It was not my first decision because I was hopping from one school to another school, and I think I was struggling a lot with visibility, feeling heard, feeling represented, kind of the belongingness piece was lacking. And for me, when I came to Kansas, I kind of came with a defeated mindset where it was like, I'm just here for credits and I won't feel the belongingness. It's totally fine. I've tried. It was a trial and error. I've been to about 2 to 3 colleges. So that was my mindset. But the minute I came in Kansas, it was like the right pace for me. Lawrence was the right place for me because the diversity here is so beautiful. You will see people walking from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds, multicultural backgrounds, this cross-cultural melting pot. That's Lawrence for me. So I saw people that looked like me, people with different aspirations and stories. And, I always say this story to so many people in admissions. I work for admissions, for recruitment and all. And I always share the story. When I was walking down the Mass Street in Lawrence, I saw a restaurant and it was a taste from home, and that's like Nepalese restaurant. And I was like, I'm amazed. This is in the middle of nowhere, but this place has my culture. So I felt that belongingness, and honestly, it's always been beautiful. My first perspective about Lawrence is always diversity, the world exposure, the melting pot where you will see every taste of the world, from culture to conversation to educational opportunities. So that's my first impression about American universities, diversity.
That's fantastic. And having been to Lawrence several times, I can testify to this. The University of Kansas itself is this amazing magnet for all kinds of talented people from around the world. And it's interesting to hear your take on your impressions of that part of Kansas. Now, Amanda, you have deep experience at KU and working in international education. I'm curious to hear your perspective on the support programs available for international students at KU.
Yeah, we have I would say, a really great international support services office. Their shortened version is ISS. So we often work closely with ISS, certainly in graduate admissions. And I know any international student works really closely from the time that they are admitted all the way throughout their career here as a student. So that's a great resource for all of our international students. We also have, through that office, a lot of programming that they do that really helps the entire community understand international education. They certainly involve, their faculty and staff and their students. But I've attended some of those sessions that they've hosted. So like they might host a session, on Peru, and they'll have students from Peru come and talk about their experience. And so as someone who likes to travel, who's not an international student, but someone who does like to travel and, sometimes have an interest at least in learning languages, although I'm not very good at it. You as a staff member, just member of the community, have an opportunity to go to these programming sessions that also very much support students and engage students. And then we also have a number of student organizations. So some that are specific that really do focus on different cultures, but then also just so many different student organizations that any student can be involved with that's really supportive to the entire student community.
That's great. And Amanda, my secret shame is that I really only speak English. And I suppose there's an irony working for an English exam, but I share that. That's why I love working with international students to gain exposure to other cultures via a similar language. Well, thank you for sharing. Astha, another question for you. You mentioned that you had been at another school or two before. You can speak to your experience at KU or elsewhere, but I was curious, was there anything that surprised you about the American university experience compared to what you were accustomed to back home?
The flexibility in education, definitely. That's what drew me to come to make that decision to fly all across the world and come here to get my education. The flexibility in education is so amazing. And that's something I believe everybody undermines, but it's so beautiful because I am majoring in computer science right now, but that's not just the only thing that I do. Because of the flexibility, the options, the choices that you have, the, educational pathways that you can create on your own, I think this only happens here. And I think that's a blessing because, when I first came in my head, I was like, it's only going to be computer science. I'm going to be putting on my migraine glasses and just coding. And that's about it. 9 to 5 in a computer coding. But then I sat down with my advisor and I was like, I'm very passionate. I'm this intersectional feminist. I want to do feminist research. And, I'm very much interested in leadership opportunities. And we sat down and we created a program where I'm graduating this semester with a major in computer science from School of Engineering, minor in women, gender, sexuality studies. So passionate about it. I did feminist research. I also am graduating with dual certifications program in global awareness program and leadership enhancement, something I truly care about. And I also have 2 dual associate's degree in general science and liberal arts and science. And I believe that that is an honor. I mean, education is great everywhere. It works differently everywhere. It's unique, even back home. But I know that if it was not for that decision to come here and explore American universities, I would not have this diversified experience where I am taking my career as an engineer at the same time caring about the issues across the world, being the feminist that I am. So I love this flexibility, these options.
I need a pair of migraine glasses just thinking about the amount of work you're doing. But Astha, I appreciate you emphasizing that. You mentioned that you're a computer science major, but in 90 seconds you revealed it's so much more. And this is the type of flexibility and broad pathways available at American campuses. So that's a great testament to all that the U.S. has to offer. And I would say too that this is fairly unique. It sounds like KU is uniquely nimble in adapting to your academic goals. So I'll look for my migraine glasses. But Amanda, back to you. You yourself have a PhD, so you've truly walked the walk. I'm curious if you have any tips for applicants to KU, not just in PhD programs, but general graduate programs.
One of the biggest tips I always give prospective graduate students is to find the person who often has the title of graduate program coordinator. Sometimes they might be called graduate program assistant, but it's a staff member who supports that program or perhaps several programs, who often works with prospective graduate students from the point of inquiry, often all the way through graduation. And so they're very informed. They are very connected. And so they are the ones who, for prospective graduate students who are really looking at a very niche area to go into, can either answer specific questions about the application process, about the different research areas, or different areas for employment, career outcomes, all of the types of questions that many graduate students are asking. Either they can answer those or they can put them in touch with individuals who can. They can connect them with faculty, they can connect them with alumni, with current students. And so because graduate programs are so specific to your area of interest, I often will highly recommend that prospective grad students really talk to that person as their first point of contact and often go back to them. Because I'm in our central office of graduate admissions, where we do a lot to make sure that we're facilitating and getting prospective graduate students to their program of interest. But it's really that program and that staff member who can really have those deep conversations and really good connections for those prospective grad students.
That's great advice. So your office effectively serves as air traffic control.
Yes, I've used that analogy many times. Yeah.
Oh, good. All right. I have airplanes on the mind. That's fair. But your suggestion is students need to go deeper and meet their pilots and co-pilots and flight attendants as well.
Yep, very much.
That's great. Asta, back to you. We've discussed a little bit tips for prospective applicants, but for students coming to the U.S., when they hit the ground running, I imagine there's all kinds of challenges to overcome, both academic and social. Given your experience, do you have any advice for first-year students on how to maximize their experience that first semester or first year?
I would say do not be afraid to share your dreams. I know it will sound very overwhelming. You're in a strange place, but your aspirations, your dreams, your goals, they're not limited. And there's way for it and there's resources for it. So if you keep it to yourself, you're not going to find those people. You're not going to find that professional network that will give you that exposure. That mentorship is just one knock away at that door, or probably just one email away. And that's what happened to me, because I was not scared to be loud about my dreams and goals. It was COVID and the campus was shut down, but I would just knock the doors and say, hey, I want to get involved. Is there a way? Can I get involved virtually? Can I join this meeting? I sat up. My advisor is almost like my guardian. I share everything with my advisor and I'm like, I want to do this. I want to get this certifications program. I want to get involved. And really just asking questions and not limiting myself and telling myself that my journey is unique. It's very unique. It's somebody else's journey is going to be different than mine and they might have different experience. So if someone tries to say like, hey, your dreams are a little overwhelming, you're a little too positive, your dreams are too big, that's not the case. It's going to be very different for you. Ask those questions, reach out to advisors, connect with professors, because honestly, like I've always wanted to have my own course. I've always wanted to develop my own course. And this semester I'm graduating, but I'm still exploring, knocking those doors, sending those emails. And I worked with the Department of Engineering with my professor and my advisor to create my own course. It's a self-taught course where I'm doing my own research about participation of women in engineering. And I created my own syllabus. I created my own grade book. And how was that possible? Because of those conversations that I share with them, because of the questions I ask. So to anyone that is thinking about studying abroad, going global, you are so confident and you're so amazing to even have the leap of courage to go across the world to chase your dreams. So you should not limit yourself in a box. There's so many endless opportunities to ask this question, send that email, be a knowing, and get your dreams. Yeah.
Oh, this is fantastic. Just to add to your curriculum, just last night I read my 5-year-old daughter the book Ada Twist, Scientist, a celebration of women in engineering. So this sounds fantastic. There's also good advice for students within the U.S. When I went to school, I saw professor office hours, and I just assumed that was something they were legally obligated to display. But I was horrified by the prospect of going into an office. I finally did it sophomore year, and for me, it really unlocked both internship and academic opportunities.
Yeah. I would say, just to add on to that, I was never an international student by any means, but talking about office hours, I also, did go to my professor's office hours because I needed a job. And so I went to that person who was also my advisor and said, hey, I need a job. Can you, kind of help direct me, on how I should do that? I had some a federal assistantship, work study where I could work on campus. And he helped me really get a job in the department for just a few hours, but it really got my foot in the door. And I would say, as someone who's always worked at an institution of higher education, it really was my start of my career, was asking just my professor, my advisor, hey, can you help me kind of figure out how to navigate where I can start to work, on this campus and in this community.
It just takes a little bit of effort to get yourself out there. And that's that initial hurdle. But once you do, it sounds like it unlocks a wave of opportunities. Well, perhaps the most substantive question I have for you both to close things out. Lawrence, Kansas is a cultural hotspot with a thriving restaurant, music, even athletic scene. A question for each of you. What is one experience, it could be a restaurant or a cultural experience, that you recommend international students must try once they land in Lawrence? Can I share mine first?
Yes, let's have you share first.
Okay. Mine is Allen Fieldhouse. Is that the basketball arena?
You stole that from me. I was going to say that.
I was thinking about food. That was what I was like,
oh,
there were too many food choices.
Amanda, you think of food. Asta, I don't want to steal your thunder. Explain what a basketball game is like at KU.
Well, KU is one of the top 10 college towns in the nation. And it is not just because of the food culture that we have, but also the sports culture that is so amazing. The father of basketball, Dr. James Naismith, who actually created basketball, the original rules of basketball. Our college, Allen Fieldhouse, is the home to the original rules of basketball. And that's a living, breathing piece of history. And it always gives me this goosebumps anytime I walk through that DeBruce Center to look at that original rules of basketball. It gives me chills. I'm like, that's real. That's when the sport was created. So Dr. James Naismith was our first coach, which is why we're great in basketball. We're also national champions of 2022, and we're doing great. Allen Fieldhouse is really historic. It has the legacy. It is so beautiful. I always cry there. I mean, it's not just Allen Fieldhouse, our football games too. American football, I don't understand it. I'm not from here, but I still cry in the games. I cry in the games because I'm so proud to be a Jayhawk. So Allen Fieldhouse is also the loudest stadium for indoor sports in the nation. So we're the loudest. If you really want to feel the core of the KU spirit, the Jayhawk spirit, and you walk inside Allen Fieldhouse to watch the basketball games, you'll cry, and that's going to be the memory of a lifetime. If you've traveled from across the world, I mean, I came all the way from the Himalayas to Heartland, and it's heavenly experience there. So Allen Fieldhouse is the greatest attraction for me.
This is a highly self-serving anecdote, but I played basketball in college for a few years, not well, and we played against Kansas, and the KU fans have this chant called "Rock Chalk Jayhawk." You mentioned goosebumps. It's almost this religious anthem. It's hard to describe to those who haven't experienced it. So yes, when you're in Lawrence, you have to see a basketball game. It really is kind of the height of American sporting culture. So Amanda, I stole your thunder on the basketball. Any other tips on things that you must see in Lawrence or experience in Lawrence when you hit the ground?
I mean, going down to Massachusetts Street, so we call it, Mass Street, which is really our downtown Lawrence. There are so many restaurants and shops, and it's a pretty unique spot as far as cities around here, as far as being able to just see how pretty the downtown is and the different offerings that we have. It's right by the river, and so that's a place if people have time. If they're not just visiting campus, they always try to make sure that they get down to Mass Street because there's just so much to do.
This is great. So for students, when you apply, gain admission, don't fly to Massachusetts, fly to Kansas or Kansas City, Missouri, and then go to Lawrence and then go to Massachusetts Street.
Yeah. Key is actually to fly to Kansas City, Missouri. That does confuse people because we have Kansas City, Kansas, in Kansas City, Missouri, and you're coming to Kansas, so it would make perfect sense that you would fly into Kansas City, Kansas. But the major airport, which is another point I always like to tell individuals about who are not familiar with Kansas, is that, we have a very nice community in Lawrence, and if you don't ever want to leave Lawrence, you don't really need to. But if you want to go to a major city, Kansas City is not very far away. It's 30 minutes to an hour, depending on where you're going. The airport is about a 40-minute drive, and the airport is in Kansas City, Missouri, even though we are on the Kansas side. And so you can, because we are in the middle of the country, if you're going to fly somewhere in the U.S., you can pretty easily get to a lot of places. So if you want to get to places that have mountains in Colorado next door, you can pretty easily fly there or drive all the way across the state. And so, yes, very good point as far as Massachusetts Street is a street. It is not state we are in. We have a pretty unique way that we've named our streets in the town, and we have numbered streets, but then also streets named after states. And Massachusetts Street, really the main downtown street. The streets go in order if they were admitted to the Union, generally speaking. Like,
no kidding.
Yeah, like out from there. But if you don't know like where to start, then you wouldn't necessarily know that. So like Iowa Street is another main street, but it's quite a bit west of Massachusetts Street because it's further west in the United States, and we progressed west as we were getting, states admitted to the union.
That's a fun bit of Lawrence trivia. Also, for international listeners, just to ground this in something that everyone is aware of, Lawrence, home of KU, about a half hour from Kansas City. Kansas City is the home of the professional football team, the Kansas City Chiefs. One of their star players, Travis Kelce, is currently dating a little-known pop star named Taylor Swift. So there's your connection to international fame. Amanda and Astha, you've made a great case for KU. I appreciate you both joining to share your story. Amanda, I hope you have good luck for the rest of this semester. And Astha, good luck to you for whatever's next after graduation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.